Hello everyone. In this video, you will learn about animal cells and tissues. Animal cells are grouped into 4 types of tissue: epithelial, nerve, muscle, and connective tissue. Epithelial tissues consist of simple squamous, simple cuboidal, simple columnar, and stratified squamous. Nerve tissue consists of sensory neuron, motor neuron, and interneuron. Muscle tissues consist of smooth muscle, striated or skeletal muscle, and cardiac muscle. While connective tissue consists of compact bone, hyaline cartilage, and blood. Epithelial tissue, or also known as epithelium, forms the outer covering of the skin, and also lines the body cavity. For example, mouth cavity, stomach cavity, and etc. Epithelium are closely packed with almost no intercellular spaces. Therefore it is suitable for protection. Epithelium attached to membrane basement for structural support. Epithelium may formed by one layer or multi-layer. Types of epithelial tissues are based on the tissue layer and cell shape. In this diagram, the tissue has one layer only, which is simple layer. The cell shape is flat, thin, and polygonal, which is squamous shape. Therefore, the type of epithelial tissue is simple squamous epithelium. In this diagram, the tissue also has one layer only, so it is simple. The cell shape is cube-like shape. Therefore, the epithelial tissue known as simple cuboidal epithelium. In this diagram, the tissue also has one layer only, so it is simple. The cell shape is tall or column-like, therefore, the epithelial tissue known as simple columnar epithelium. In this diagram, the tissue has multi-layer, which is known as stratified. The cell shape at the top has flat, thin and polygonal, which is known as squamous shape. This top layer cell shape will determine the type of the tissue. Therefore, this epithelium tissue known as stratified squamous epithelium. In this diagram, the tissue is one layer only, but it is look like multi-layer. This type of layer known as pseudostratified. Meanwhile, the cell shape is mostly tall or column-like. Therefore, the epithelium tissue known as pseudostratified epithelium. Some tissue has cilia, a hair-like structure on the cell surface. For example, like the tissue in this picture. In this picture, other than have cilia on the surface, we can see that the layer of tissue is single layer, and the shape of the cell is column-like. Based on its feature, this epithelium known as simple ciliated columnar epithelium. We will discuss more about each type of epithelial tissue. In your syllabus, you have to focus more about simple squamous, simple cuboidal, simple columnar, and stratified squamous. Simple squamous epithelium has single-layer tissue that attach to basement membrane. The cell shape is flat, thin and polygonal shape. The nuclei located in the center of the cell. Because of the single layer, and also flat and thin features, simple squamous function is to allow passage of materials by diffusion and filtration. Therefore, simple squamous epithelium distributed or located in the lining of blood vessels, alveoli, glomerulus, and Bowman's capsule. For simple cuboidal epithelium, the tissue has single layer with cube-shaped cell, and the nuclei is located in the center of the cell. The function of this tissue is for secretion and absorption, where these processes actively occur in the kidney. Hence, the distribution of this tissue is in the lining of kidney tubules. For simple columnar epithelium, it has single layer with column-like cell. The nuclei is located near the base of the cell. There are 2 types of simple columnar epithelium, which are ciliated and non-ciliated. If the cell has cilia or hair-like structure on its surface, it is known as simple ciliated columnar epithelium. The cilia function for movement of substances. Meanwhile, some simple columnar tissue has microvilli on its surface. Microvilli is finger-like structure, where the plasma membrane is folded. This tissue may be known as simple non-ciliated columnar epithelium. Microvilli function is to increase surface area for absorption. By the way, for non-ciliated tissue, it is not compulsory to use the non-ciliated term in the tissue name. By using simple columnar epithelium term only, is also accepted. Simple columnar usually has goblet cells. It is a secreting mucus unicellular gland. The mucus trap dust and pathogens. Simple columnar epithelium function in secretion and absorption. For non-ciliated tissue, it is found in the lining of the small intestine and digestive tract. While, for ciliated tissue, it is found in the lining of the oviduct and trachea. For stratified squamous epithelium, it has multi-layer of cells, with squamous shape of cell exposed at the surface. The squamous cells at the top are originated from the cuboidal cells near the basement membrane by mitosis. Because of the multi-layer of the stratified squamous epithelium, its function is to protect the underlying tissues. This tissue can be found in the lining of the inner lining of mouth, esophagus, anus, vagina, and epidermis of skin. There are three types of neuron in nerve tissue. First, is sensory neuron. Function of sensory neuron is receives impulses from sensory receptors, and transfer it to central nervous system. Second is, interneuron. This neuron will convey or transmit nerve impulses, from one neuron to another. Third is, motor neuron. Function of motor neuron is to receive nerve impulse from the central nervous system, and transfer it to muscle and gland. In your syllabus, you need to focus about motor neuron. Basically, a neuron has all of these features. First, is cell body. Cell body contains nucleus and any organelles in the cytoplasm. It conducts impulse from dendrites to axon. Next is dendrites. Dendrites receive impulse from other neurons and transmit it towards cell body. Next is axon. Axon conducts the impulse away from cell body to synaptic knob at the axon terminal. Synaptic knob is found at the end of axon terminal. It contains synaptic vesicles containing neurotransmitter for impulse transmission. At the axon, there is myelin sheath. This lipid substance, which is secreted by Schwann cell, cover the axon, and act as electrical insulator. Next is nodes of Ranvier. This is a small part of axon, that is not covered by myelin sheath. Its function is to speed up the impulse transmission. Muscle tissue is one of animal tissues. This tissue allows animals to do the voluntary or involuntary movement. There are three types of muscle tissue: striated or skeletal muscle, cardiac muscle, and smooth muscle. In your syllabus, you need to know the structure, function and distribution of each type of muscle tissues. First is smooth muscle. Smooth muscle has spindle-shaped cells, with tapering ends. There is only one nucleus in a cell. The nucleus is located at the center of the cell. This tissue is lack of striation. Function of smooth muscle is for involuntary action. For example, peristalsis, a process that propel food through gastrointestinal tract. We can found this tissue in the wall of digestive tract, urinary bladder, arteries, iris of eyes, uterus, and erector muscle. Second is striated or skeletal muscle. Skeletal muscle has elongated, cylindrical, unbranched fibers. There is many nuclei per cell. The nuclei is located at periphery. Skeletal muscle has striation, which is the alternate of light and dark band. giving the cell appears of having stripes. Skeletal muscle's function is, for voluntary movement of skeleton. Therefore, it is mostly found attached to skeleton or bone. Third is, the cardiac muscle. Cardiac muscle has elongated, cylindrical, branched fibers, that interconnected via intercalated disc. The intercalated disc's function is, to relay impulse, and synchronize the heartbeat. Each cardiac muscle, may have one or two centrally located nuclei. Similar to skeletal muscle, cardiac muscle also has striation, the light and dark bands. Cardiac muscle's function, is mainly for contraction of heart. Therefore, cardiac muscle can be found in the wall of heart only. Connective tissue is the tissue that connects, support, binds, or separates other tissues and organs in the body. Connective tissues are made up of cells embedded in a non-living matrix. In your syllabus, you need to focus about these three types of connective tissues: compact bone, hyaline cartilage, and blood. Compact bone consists of a repetitive unit, known as Haversian system, or osteon. The matrix of compact bone is strong, rigid, and hard. The matrix is made up of collagen fiber and inorganic salts, such as calcium hydroxyapatite, calcium carbonate, and calcium phosphate. The matrix is secreted by osteoblast, a bone-forming cell. The secreted matrix will form a concentric lamellae. Lamellae form concentric layer of matrix around a central canal of osteon, or Haversian canal of Haversian system. Osteon or Haversian system is a repeating unit of compact bone. Each Haversian system has Haversian canal located at the center. Haversian canal contains blood vessels, lymph vessels, and nerves. Each Haversian canal is surrounded by concentric layers of lamellae and concentric rings of osteocytes. Volkmann's canal interconnect the Haversian canals with another Haversian canals, meaning all Haversian canals of compact bone are linked together. Lacunae is a space that enclosed by hard matrix. Each lacuna contain one osteocyte only. Canaliculi is a SAML channels that link together the lacunae, and also lacunae and Haversian canal. Canaliculi's function is as routing nutrients to osteocytes and expelling waste products. Osteocyte is a mature bone cell. Its function as maintaining bone matrix. It is located within a lacunae. Do not be confused with osteoblast and osteocyte. The differences between osteoblast and osteocyte are: osteoblast is an immature bone cell. Its function is to secrete bone matrix during development of bone. The matrix secreted is in liquid form and soft. Osteoblast is not enclosed in lacunae. Meanwhile, osteocyte is originated from osteoblast. Osteocyte is a mature bone cell, which is trapped within a lacunae once the mineralized bone matrix becomes hardened. Its function as maintaining bone matrix. Osteocyte does not has the ability to secrete matrix. Compact bone has various functions. The functions are: for protection, giving shape or framework, for blood production, for calcium storage, for support, and for movement. Hyaline cartilage is another type of connective tissue. Unlike compact bone, it is soft and rubbery. Hyaline cartilage is a glossy, grayish-white tissue, with a uniform appearance. Hyaline cartilage has chondrocyte. Chondrocyte is a mature cartilage cells, which is originated from chondroblast. Chondrocyte cells are round up, is within lacunae, which is located at the center of the cartilage tissues. Function of chondrocyte is to secrete matrix and maintain cartilage matrix. Similar to compact bone, hyaline cartilage also has lacunae. Lacunae is a space enclosed by chondrin or matrix. Each lacunae may contains 1 or 2 chondrocytes. Matrix of cartilage is known as chondrin. It is made of chondroitin sulfate and collagen. It is secreted by chondroblast and chondrocyte. Chondroblast is an immature cartilage cells. It has flatter cell, with large nucleus, within lacunae, which is located at the periphery of cartilage tissues. Its main function is to secrete matrix. We can found hyaline cartilage at the tip of nose, external ear, the ring of windpipe and trachea, and also at the joint of the end of bones. Main function of hyaline cartilage is for structure and flexible support, and also to reduce friction between joints. Blood is another type of connective tissue. Blood divides into 3 types: red blood cell or erythrocyte, white blood cell or leukocyte, and platelets. Red blood cells has red color, due to the presence of hemoglobin pigment, that allow it to function for transport oxygen and carbon dioxide. Structure of red blood cells are adapt to its function. Red blood cell has biconcave disc shape. This is to increase surface area for gaseous exchange. Red blood cell has elastic membrane. This is to allow the red blood cells to pass through the narrow blood capillary. Red blood cell has no nucleus. This is to enable the cell to provide more space for hemoglobin storage. Red blood cell has no mitochondria. This is to increase the efficiency of oxygen transport, because the red blood cells cannot conduct aerobic respiration if there is no mitochondria. Unlike red blood cell, white blood cell has nucleus, and the shape is irregular. White blood cell does not carry hemoglobin pigment, therefore, it is not in red color. There are 2 classes of white blood cells. The granular, which are neutrophils, eosinophils, and basophils. And agranular, which are lymphocytes and monocytes. Function of white blood cell is to defend our body against pathogens. Platelet is another type of blood. It is just fragments of cells, with irregular shape, and have no nucleus. Its function is for blood clotting or blood coagulation, a process that prevents excessive bleeding when a blood vessel is injured. As a conclusion, all 4 types of animal tissues, epithelial, nerves, muscle and connective tissues, work together to form an organization in our body, to function as a whole. That's all for animal tissues. Your next lesson is about plant tissues.